What's up, guys? So we got a question from D, who was recently selected to be the enforcer in his gym. Now, if you don't know what an enforcer is, this story is going to illustrate exactly what it is pretty well, and then we'll dive into it together. So basically, D was in his gym, and there's a guy in his gym that was being a mat bully. So he's picking on smaller people, ripping submissions too quickly, doing a lot of nasty stuff. The coach had talked to this guy already, and he didn't listen. He kept doing it. So the coach came up to D and a couple of the other higher belts and says, "Hey, man, I'm giving you guys the green light to go rough this guy up." So D rolled with him, put it on him pretty well, and then afterwards, it's been 2 weeks, he hasn't seen the guy. Now D's kind of torn between the situation, because on one hand, he's like, man, you had to do something with the guy, right? Something had to be done. But on the other side, he's like, man, is this a normal practice? Do people just rough people up in the gym? Is that normal? Because, you know, he feels bad about it. And so he's wondering if I have any perspectives on it, and again, wondering if it's a normal practice. So D, thank you for the question, brother. And I mean, to get into it as far as it being normal, it's pretty normal, right? And again, we'll get into the roughness side of it and being mean, because I don't think it's necessarily mean, but it is a common practice. You have to sometimes expose people to the depth of skill that lays in jiu-jitsu. I know that I'm a product of this, right? When I first came into the gym, I remember thinking that I was going to be a blue belt, right? I remember telling my coach, I'm like, yeah, man, you know, I've done some wrestling and I've watched some videos. I think I'm going to be a blue belt. And my coach, along with everybody inside that gym that day, put it on me just over and over and over again. And my eyes, man, after class, wide open. I was like, holy crap, it blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. This stuff is so good. I've got to do this, all right? I don't think if I had went to jiu-jitsu and they were like really nice to me, I don't know if I would have like taken into it, because I wouldn't have been like exposed to like how good these people were and how much they smoked me, right? And because of how good they were and because of how like much they beat me up, I was like, I got to do this. I got to get what you guys got. So it's important. I mean, you've seen this as far back in as like the Gracie in action tapes, where these like the Gracies are sharing it with people by like beating them up and being like, see how powerful it is, right? So I can understand that. So in that situation though, what you're doing though is you're maintaining the culture, the boundaries of your jiu-jitsu gym, right? I'll give you two examples of what I'm talking about, and then we'll get into it. So there was one time where we had a guy in the gym who was doing really well as a white belt, doing really well, submitting people, winning tournaments and stuff like that. But he started to get too much into this locker room talk stuff. So what I mean by that is like, in a locker room after you're done training, you got a guy who's like, yeah, I submitted so-and-so, and he's talking about it. You don't roll and tell, right? You don't talk about who you're submitting in the gym. It's a no-no, right? Because it ruins the culture. Because if you know that person's going to talk shit about you after he beats you, you're going to fight, and it's such a negative, it's going to be a negative place, right? And so I told him to knock it off, but he continued, and some of the other higher belts kept telling me, man, he's saying this stuff. So I gave one of our purple belts, I gave him the green light, and we follow a very particular rule, which I'll talk about in a second, but I gave him it. I said, go ahead, do what we do. And he put it on him. And then afterwards, I came up to him and talked to him. I said, man, listen, I talked to you before, kept doing it. Do you see the difference? We can do this to you if you want to. You're not the toughest guy in the room. Do you get it? And he did. He started to understand, and he knocked it off. I love the guy now. It's awesome. He's a great training partner. Just tonight, he was in the fundamentals class, helping out one of the brand new guys, man, being there to help him up. That's the whole point in this gym, right? Now, by the way, the rule that we follow is called the Rich rule. It was made by my black belt, Rich, who basically as a purple belt used to, when people would come in who talked too much or had a big ego, right? He would submit them 3 times as fast as possible and then slow down and play with them, right? To let them know, hey, look, I can crush you at any point if you want to continue this sort of idea that you're doing, this sort of negative attitude, but we can also play and have fun, right? And so to me, that's a great way to bring someone over to your side of it, to be like, look, this is the depth. You don't want to go there. Let's be respectful to everyone around you. Now, in one situation though, and I've got plenty of these, but in one situation, it didn't work out that way. Like where I had Chad. Chad was my enforcer for a number of years because of how unassuming he was, right? Because me at the time when this happened, I was like 220, so I'm kind of a big guy. And Chad's like got the Bieber haircut, the windswept hair. He's like 5'10", 120 pounds. He's a beanpole, scrawny looking. Doesn't look like anything, but he's a killer. And so this guy comes in and he's an MMA guy, right? He's like talking about his MMA fight that he's got coming up that he lost, by the way. He hasn't really trained before, all this stuff, but he's talking this big game. So, you know, I was like, listen, man, why don't you just go roll with this kid Chad over here? He's like 14 years old. Just go roll with him. See if you can, you know, do anything with him. And when he saw that, he goes, what? God, I couldn't even be bothered to roll this guy. And I wink at Chad. And that's all I used to have to do. I'd wink at Chad, and Chad knew what I meant. That meant like, you know, so Chad rolled with him, triangle, triangle, triangle. Now, he wasn't rough or mean. He was just putting him in triangles, like clean, boom, 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 over and over again. And then after the roll was over and after the class was over that I was teaching, I came up to him. I said, hey, man, how was it, dude? And I was hoping, I desperately hoped, because he seemed like a nice enough guy, that he would be like, man, you guys are really good. I need to learn this stuff, just like I did when I was a white belt, like when I was brand new. I need to learn this stuff. But instead, he started saying, yeah, man, I'm getting ready for the fight, man. I'm a little tired and I'm cutting weight and blah, 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 excuse. And so when he said that, I was cashed out, I was done, you know, and I was nice enough to him, but in my mind, I'm like, please get out of the gym. Now, in that situation with guys like that, and like guys like this mat bully that you're talking about, if they don't want to go to the proper place and be respectful, you don't want them in your gym. Because your gym, our gyms, all of our gyms, right, to represent a walled garden. There's a book that I read recently, and this guy was talking about, the author, he was saying that everyone in their life needs a walled garden of some sort. And basically what he meant is that, you know, the walls around a garden, right? They offer some protection from the outside world, right? And then inside of the walled garden, you have this place where you have the dark, rich soil, you have the sunlight that combine together with everything that you're doing to cultivate these creations, right? Through your labor. Well, if we use that symbolism, right? The walls, the protection from the outside world, right? Like, would you give your arm to someone and say, I trust you not to break my arm? Would you let him put you in an arm bar? Would you go up to some random person and say, hey, put your arm around my neck and put me in a choke, and expect them not to let go at the right time, to respect your tap? Would you do that with anybody outside of your gym that doesn't do jiu-jitsu, right? Of course not. You wouldn't trust them, right? But inside your gym, you have this trust with your training partners. You should, that you can have me on the brink of where you can break my arm, but you're not going to. You're going to trust that the tap will be enough. Or if I scream, you'll let go. Or you'll do enough to where we can roll really hard. We can really brutalize each other if we're getting ready for a tournament. But at the same time, we're always going to respect one another and try to train at the same time keeping each other healthy, right? You're going to respect that. Now, getting into it, right, when you're inside of there, then you're taking all the nasty sides of yourself, the dark, rich soil, the darker sides of yourself, the frustration, the anxieties that you have, the insecurities, whatever you got going on, right? All the nasty stuff, and you're mixing it with all the positive things, the camaraderie that comes in, the discipline it takes to be good, you know, your effort, the overcoming those negative things, right? All those beautiful things that come from it, you mix those together, and you have the fruits of your creation, of your labor, and your creation of your game, and the mental and physical toughness and sort of development that you have, right? That's what it kind of is, right? I love that term for it. And so when you think about it like that, as a higher belt, what you're doing is you're manning the walls, right? So like when someone comes in there and they're saying, hey, can I come in? And they're being a bully and they're being nasty to the people around you and they're not being good, what's going to happen is that those walls start to crumble. The protection that was there is no longer there because you can't trust them. You cannot trust that they're not going to let the arm go, right? They're going to respect the tap. So they mess the mentality up at the gym. The culture will it becomes cancerous. I've seen it happen in other gyms before. It's a nasty thing and it has to be taken care of. Now, in our case, a lot of times I don't like to rough people up. If I feel like I got to rough someone up, I'll just tell them to leave. I've done that numerous times because I don't want them in my gym. Most often what I'll do is like say, hey, listen, I want you to roll with them. I want them to be submitted. I want them to feel the depth of skill, and hopefully that'll be enough to like take care of the situation. And you also talk to them and educate people, right? That should be sort of the line of action. You're not there to hurt someone, but you might let them know how deep the technical skill goes so they know, ooh, man, this is something, right? Better be careful here. So to me, D, getting back to it, because I know this is all over the place, but with you, you're manning the walls, you're protecting the gym culture. In that situation, that guy, maybe he didn't like it because there's a lot of guys who get upset, they get butthurt because their egos and their insecurities, and they can't deal with not being better, right? Like the guy in the story, he couldn't deal with a 14-year-old kid whooping him. And I don't want that guy in my gym because he's going to ruin the culture. And like the guy there, the mat bully, if he can't take a little bit of a whooping, right? If he can't take a little bit of a schooling from a higher belt and come back, you don't want that guy in your gym anyway. And again, I'm not saying you got to hurt. You definitely want to hurt anybody. You didn't hurt them. You just let them know that, hey, look, I'm really good at this stuff, and you know you can treat the people with a little bit more respect, just like I can treat you with respect, and give them contrast. So I hope this sort of gives you a perspective on it. And D, thanks for the question, brother. By the way, guys, I wanted to show you guys something today. So recently, I got some new mats, and I want to show them to you guys because they're pretty. This is like the little Easter egg. If you guys are still watching, most of you guys probably clicked that because it was kind of a long video. It's like 9 minutes, I think. So we got some new mats from Zebra. Zebra is my favorite because they last forever. We've had all these mats in the gym for like 12 plus years. So the new room, the room over on the other side is going to be blue. So I got some blue and gray here. Got the Zebra logo. They're super pretty. By the way, oh, check it out. That's my first gi ever. let me show you these mats. These are the ones I'm really stoked about. Boom! Look at those. God, those are so pretty. Look at those suckers. So, coming up probably in the next couple of weeks, you guys are probably going to see this floor become a big blue and gray floor. So, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. Talk to you soon.